I'm especially proud that Consumers Energy is the presenting sponsor of today's events, including Mentoring Monday. Mentoring Monday is about learning from and celebrating each other. And based on the buzz of good conversation I heard in this room, particularly at tables 3 and 4, I'd say we did that and more. In fact, let's have a round of applause for our organizers and for all of you and all of the mentors. Thanks. So listening and learning are an ever-growing hallmark of Consumers Energy's culture. I have the pleasure of leading our People and Culture Operations team, and I am privileged to work alongside dedicated pros who help our company and our people grow, thrive, and adapt to change. That's one of the many reasons I'm so proud to introduce our keynote speaker today, Andi Simon. She has built her career on doing just that. Andi is an international leader in corporate anthropology, an award-winning author, and founder and CEO of Simon Associates Management Consultants, or SAMC. Andi's company applies the theory, methods, and tools of anthropology to help companies, organizations, and communities adapt to changing times. Before opening SAMC in 2002, she held executive management positions in financial services and healthcare sectors. She served in several banking leadership roles when deregulation forced significant changes in the business landscape. Dr. Simon is also a tenured professor of anthropology at American Studies at Ramapo College in New Jersey. And in 2018, Andi and her husband and partner, Andrew, opened the Simon Initiative in Entrepreneurship located at the Scandalaris Center at Washington University in St. Louis. Andi is also a renowned author. Her 2017 book, On the Brink, A Fresh Lens to Take Your Business to New Heights, won an Axiom Bronze Best Book Award the same year. Her latest book, Rethink, Smashing the Myths of Women in Business, tells the stories of 11 women who found new possibility and personally and professionally by being authentic, taking risks, and pushing past the obstacles of others. Rethink is about inspiring all women to achieve and showing them new ways to launch forward. Sounds much like today's theme, don't you think? Without further delay, please help me welcome Dr. Andi Simon.
Are we having fun? Yes. It's so much fun to be together again. I don't want to diminish the 2 years that we've spent or not really reflect on what we've learned. But today we are really back together in person and I'm having such fun, so thank you for the opportunity. I'm not supposed to say thank you, but I do love it. We're going to talk today about leading forward. The human being wants to know what's coming next. And the challenges that we've been through have made it very difficult to provide any certainty at all, and humans hate uncertainty. So the question for all of you, each of you, is what am I doing to lead forward? Because it is a time for us to really reflect on what we've learned, where we're going, and how we can begin to project out into an uncertain future. It's always been that way. But we created the illusion of certainty and recurring creating habits. Humans love that. But in fact, that's not the case. So now what do we do next? I want to talk to you about Rethink. Rethink came about, it has an origin myth. The subtitle is Smashing the Myths of Women in Business. My husband and I set up this program at Washington University to help women entrepreneurs. Having been both entrepreneurs, we realized that uncertainty is part of the joy of being an entrepreneur, or the pain of it. And one of the things that we wanted to do was to help women take those ideas and turn them into innovation. What we found, though, is they needed role models. They wanted to be like Maxine Clark, who rethought retail when she created Building Better Bear workshops. And it's interesting because as we worked with them, we realized that there weren't a lot of role models for them. So the question became, who could we pull together and provide some kind of context? And then my husband, in his wonderful way, said to me, you know, they're all smashing the myths of women in business. I said, oh, that's a much better book. Let's go back and rewrite it. And I did. My publisher said, oh, that's a much better book. But in fact, what we found was that the women were telling us stories, and the stories are extremely important for us to experience what can be, not what we can't, or what we won't, or what women don't. All the hurdles, it's not about smashing ceilings, it's about all the obstacles in the stories we hear that create our minds, and our minds will do exactly what it thinks we want it to do. So do we want to change? I think so. How do we do that? Let's take a look. Today, let's talk about women as leaders. One of the things we found among our clients is that people, men and women, responded to the pandemic in different ways. Some were deer in the headlight. They stood still, didn't know what to do. Others became leaders who we never expected. And the third group became followers of other leaders who we weren't happy they were following. But they all figured it out. People don't like vacuums. They like something. So if you're not giving them something, they'll figure out something. And they'll make up a story that fits their story, where they're the hero, not you. And so the question becomes, how do we deal with that? So how are you dealing with that? What kind of a leader are you? As I sat at the table before, I was fascinated by the leaders who you are. You might have management positions, but remember that people today don't want tasks that are tactical and practical. They want someone who can show them the way, who can tell them a story that will inspire them every day to get up and come to work happy. It's a new kind of visualization of what our roles are. Now, part of the problem is that men are still more likely to be thought of as leaders than women. Back, quite a while ago, 1969, Victoria Shine did some great work on women and men as leaders. And the words that were used to describe a leader were usually associated with what a man was, not a woman. In 2017, new research said, hasn't changed a whole lot, but slowly but surely, the command and control that was associated with a male leader is diminishing as they too are changing their way of leading to be more collaborative, creative, team building, new words that sound a little more feminine. But the balance hasn't shifted enough. This was 2018 research, and that says the narrative has to change. And in some ways, and the sheriff said it so beautifully this morning, if they see a woman in a role, they begin to believe that they can do it too. This is not magic. This is really experience. So for change to happen, we have to show a different picture. We decide with the heart and the eyes. If I don't see it, I can't be it. Marion Wright Edelman said that in 1963 when she formed the Children's Defense Fund. If you can't see it, you can't be it. This is not inconsequential. So it doesn't matter what role you're playing a role. Think of it as a stage. And others are watching so they can play the same role. And that's rehearsal time for them to begin to aspire to be you. So this becomes important. Who are your role models, though? Think about it. Who's been your mentor? As I wrote the book, many of the women said to me, there were no women who could mentor me. But the men saw something in me and inspired me to take the next step. Sometimes as an imposter, I didn't know what they were talking about, but I made it up and they were happy with what I made up. And it was okay, because they didn't know either. But they saw something. You're laughing. We've all been there. But it's a real interesting question because if I can't see it, I can't be it. Now, these are the women who are in my book, but they could be you. And as I tell you their stories, think about your own story, because as I share this story, your stories are going to begin to change. That's the way your mind works. Remember, it does exactly what it thinks you want it to do. And if you're going to change it from what's familiar, you're going to have to add something to the story. Think about your story. Because at the end, I'm going to ask you to tell us what you think you might want to change. I'm not going to go all through all of them, but these are some of my favorites. Stephanie Breedlove on the top right was told that women should not be entrepreneurs. She was at Accenture. Her mother and her father and her mother-in-law and father-in-law and all her friends said, don't start a business. But she saw a need. Nobody could tell her how to pay her nanny's taxes. It was experiential. And so she began to talk to people about the gap. Gaps are great for business. And slowly in her basement, she started a business. And then she left Accenture and started even bigger. And her parents said, oh, don't do that. Women can't succeed. And she grew to $18 million, not succeeding. And sold it for $57 million to Care.com, not succeeding. And now she helps other women succeed because she believed. There's a theme here. Can you see yourself doing something people say, no, you can't, women don't? Andi Kramer is one of my favorite stories. They're all my favorite stories. But Andi was a kid who went to see a legal proceeding in court and wanted to become an attorney. Went home and her parents had her meet with one of their friends, a guy who was her attorney, who said to her, a lady lawyer? Really? You don't want to be a lady lawyer. They never do any good. You'll never have a family. So what did she become? An amazing woman attorney in Chicago, a partner in a law firm. Now she coaches and helps women. But she tells a great story. When she sat on the compensation committee, the men all climbed the ivory tower to save the damsel in distress. The women all worked together so that the client never had a problem. And the interesting part was the guys got promoted and the women kept their jobs. And she said there's something wrong in the story. And she began to coach the women on how not to climb the Empire State Building, but how to begin to assume some of that responsibility themselves. It's nice to be collaborative, but now you're watching a culture which wasn't exactly valuing it. It's very interesting. There are 400,000 women attorneys today, but only 26% are equity partners in firms. Change has to happen. Down here, Jamie Candy runs a $150 million business in the educational world in Mentor. And she talks about how she learned to mobilize a company that wasn't doing well. And she spends time in every department. And then, apropos of our conversation this morning, she has goals and a strategy, but only 3 things that we're going to work on. And everyone there in the organization, she has about 600 people there, have to be able to tell her what are we going to focus on. The priorities are key, but how we do them can be variable. But it's important for you to know where we're going. And unless you can tell me what our 3 focuses are, we're not going to get there. So she keeps turning around businesses by being part of them as opposed to being controlling of them, enabling people to aspire to do better. She's a great lady. Who else can I share? Sam Rad is a wonderful woman who had 5 internet companies. By the time she finished college, she had already created 2. The only problem was that the venture capital folks want to know who the CEO is. She can be the CMO. She can be the chief people officer. She can even be the creative, but she can't be the CEO. And she's had enough, she said. She said, I keep building businesses for the guys. Why? And now it's time for her to begin to establish the fact that women can take venture capital money and succeed really well, and that's changing a little at a time, step at a time. On the bottom left is Maria Gallo, who took over a troubled higher ed institution. She was a great lady. She came in but was never allowed to talk about the guy who preceded her. He had done such a terrible job, they wouldn't let her talk about him. I never even know what he was. It was so funny. And now she's the chancellor of University of Wisconsin. It's a real interesting pathway, but she talks about how the guys could see her in different jobs and encourage her to go there. Who are your role models? Who are your mentors and your coaches? Because they led by doing something that I encourage you to think about. There was nobody there who said, this is what you should be. They all said, I have a purpose. I'm brave and I'm bold and courageous. And I can knock down the brick walls. I can really smash those ceilings. I can. Will people help me? Maybe. But I don't care. And most of all, they had purpose. Now there's great research about purpose-driven companies do far better than those who don't have purpose. Purpose-driven salespeople do far better than those who are just selling a product. What is it about our expression of that purpose that people encourage us to do something with? These are the 10 things I want you to think about for yourselves. I interviewed almost 60 people. Stories are all shareable. They could be your stories, but here's what I heard. The first one, the power of observation. Now I'm an anthropologist, I'm biased. But there are times where it's better not to know and just to watch, to listen, to think about it from the outside in, and then see a bigger picture. Are you seeing it narrow or big? Because if your job is in the weeds, that's fine, but perhaps it's time to see where we're going. It's bigger. The second, remain open to the new. Be curious. We hear about emotional intelligence, about real intelligence, and I love curiosity intelligence. Are you curious? Are you wandering around? Are you trying to find new ideas? This is an absolute gift, because I'm already inspired by what we're hearing. It's a great time to be curious. Be unsure and learn. It's okay. We were talking before about MLive. I was in Flint, Michigan when you went through your great transformation. Well, it doesn't end. It's like onboarding. It doesn't stop. We keep learning. The third is don't get stuck or stalled. My first book was about 8 of our clients who came to us because they were stuck or stalled. It was a great word. They didn't know where they were going. It was all around them. John Seely Brown once said, the way forward is all around you if only you can see it. But it's really there. But they found that it didn't matter. As long as I kept trying and doing, I stopped being stuck. Now, when you think about it, you have to also stick to your guns. One of the women there, Babette Ballinger, grew several fashion industries for the guys, but you had to stick to her guns, she said, because they kept wanting to wander. Some of you at the table today were talking about how your bosses sometimes argue with you. Well, it's okay, but stick to your guns. It's okay to have a point of view, and also to agree with others. Then, a journey. 2 of the women went on great journeys. Yeah, something that happened, it was a catalytic moment, and they went. One went to Europe and to Israel, the other went through Africa. The points they made, though, are very transmissible to you. They couldn't discover things sitting in their office. They had to get out and wander. That journey is really a metaphor for exploding and exploring life. They came back different people, but so had the industries completely been transformed. Remember those CD discs that were gone when they came back? The fashion industry had completely moved to China when she came back. What happens when you're gone? And this, number 6, who says you can't? Don't let the outside define you. Take ownership of who you are. Why not? Ask yourself, who can I be? How can I get there? And how do I do it? And then men can be great mentors and teammates. This isn't a male-female. This is together we do better. We get there faster. Allies of women are allies of her are extremely important. But you know, Jamie Candy is building a company completely diverse, equal. Every job gets a pay amount to it, and whether you're a guy or a gal, diverse backgrounds or not, you get that pay. What happens then is that you work together, but she's had to teach them how to have conversations. All of our days are conversational. But when you move into a new way of seeing things, you don't know what the conversation is. So it becomes difficult to know what to say. And then women need other women working together. Role models. They need to see what others are doing. But not bad, but good. You know, I hear too many stories where the woman who was a boss wasn't such a good boss or a nice boss. So this is a time for rethinking even that story. It's okay to go for the gold. It's okay to want to climb the Empire State Building. It's okay to want to reach and then celebrate. Celebrate, celebrate. Your mind remembers what you celebrate. So don't deny it a moment of joy, even if it's a walk in the park. Sometimes it's hard to find someone to give a hug. But for your own folks and those who work for you, and don't shortchange the celebration. Even little small steps, as Oprah says, get you to where you're going, a little at a time. To lead forward, it starts today. Not tomorrow. Today's a good day. When you leave this wonderful, wonderful convention here, you're going to have enough ideas to say to yourself, what is the one step I'm going to do next? Because big journeys begin with small steps. And this is not inconsequential, because you can't churn this battleship of the oar. You've got to do it a step at a time. And each time you hit a destination, celebrate. And think about the destination is where you got to as a way on to the next journey. When we were talking about MLive, it's not an end. You know, Mary Barr said, you know, process and progress are not winning. It's not an end. It keeps going. Because as you go, you don't want to end. You want to keep bringing that joy to others, mentor them. And as you do it, think about one thing you're going to change to start you on that journey, perhaps today. And I want to pause and ask you to share with us what would be one of those things that you might change. Spend a moment to think about it. And then let's share some of the ideas that you're already picking up to say, I got to stop that, I got to start this, and where do I go? Amanda, can I start with you?
Sure.
Since you started with me, I thought perhaps you want to start with me.
Thank you.
What thing you might like to change?
I think just focusing less on the what goes wrong and believing that it will eventually go right.
Yes. Stop focusing on what's going wrong Let's learn from it, turn it around. And what's the story? Because if you can create a positive story, next thing you know, wasn't so bad. And next thing you know, we forgot, and we move on. Perfect idea. Somebody in the middle, want to share? Please.
Be curious about the situation, not like, that was stupid, why did I do it that way, but be curious, why did it go that way, how can I do it differently? Be curious, I like that.
I like a curiosity quotient. It sets everything into an opportunity. And they're all learning. And boy, once you start doing that, you can feel it grow. I love little black books. So some of you at the table have your books and you're writing your notes. Your mind is miserly. It really would rather I go away. And it really doesn't want to change. And the pain that's created is a lot of cortisol. And it says, please, go away, hijack it. Bad idea. So you got to fight a little bit of your own brain's chemistry. Because the amygdala loves to stay where it is. But nobody can. Please.
That the top 100 automotive suppliers are led by women.
That's your dream. I love it. And why not?
Why not?
Why not? I mean, Mary's there, she's setting the stage, and I think that's a vision that could be so exciting, that's transformative. But you're not going to do it with just women, you're going to do it with guys too, right? Yes.
Teammates.
I know. More ideas. You're beginning to feel the energy. Please.
Celebrate the small successes along the way.
Yes. Are you not doing that now?
Not as much as I could be.
And you know, once you start to do it, people, they rise with you. It's so interesting to watch a little celebration and we all do better. It wasn't so bad anyhow. So let's turn it into an opportunity to grow. I'll come back over to this side. Somebody over here on the tables perhaps want to share. Please.
Bring other people with you to break the glass ceiling.
Yes. You know, it's shattering, a little at a time. Please don't fall off the cliff. You know, women work all the way up and they get tired and they say, remember it goes like this. But organizations are changing to allow it to go like this. So there are more places up there. The biggest problem is not simply being in the chief marketing officer or chief HR role, but to also have, you know, P&L responsibility and maybe chief financial officer responsibility. But take a look around and see how businesses are changing the conversation and are becoming gender fair. Others, in the back. Nobody? No ideas? Yes.
I'd like to see women empowering other women.
Yes.
It's real easy to just say, well, no one's ever done that before, so it's just not a thought that enters our mind. And
Yep.
I want that thought to enter all of our minds.
I had a wonderful client, part of Merck, big company. And when she retired, I said, did you help other women move up? She said, no, I never even thought about it. And she had been president of the division and could, but she was more important to grow the division, not the women in the division. I do think this is intentionality now. We're at a point where you don't hurt yourself if you do it, and you can really help everybody bring it along. Other thoughts? Yes, please.
Change the perception of what it means to be powerful. So rather than women having to adopt what are traditionally thought of as masculine traits to be seen as powerful, to just be who we are and be powerful in our own right.
And celebrate who we are, because we can get so much done. But it doesn't have to mimic them. And they could sort of learn from us also. It's okay. I'm working with a large healthcare institution, and the woman who came in as CEO, the folks from Holland here would appreciate this, she's trying to change a command and control place where she wants people to be empowered and have enrichment and encouraged to make change and risk. And this is hard because they don't know what the words mean, much less the behavior she's looking for. Her predecessor was truly a no you can't, no you won't, don't ask if you want to, we're making money, don't bother me. And this is a whole new world for them. It's interesting. Lady in the back.
Stop seeking validation from others.
Yes. Please, it's all there inside. Look in the mirror and say, I'm going to be a good person. And go be a good person. And because if you're seeking that validation, they come. Why not? Any last thoughts? Oh my goodness, please.
Take every day as a learning experience.
Yes, and you're coming out of university life. It's time to see what's possible. I'll tell you the joy of humans is that you can visualize something and move toward it. And as you get closer, take the next one. It's a journey. Please.
Learn when to say no, so you don't get
Yes.
taken advantage of.
And there are nice ways to say no. It's not a four-letter word. It's okay to say, no, I don't think I can do that. You have no idea how often you begin to see, it's okay to say, no, you wouldn't be a good client for me. And my husband would say, really? And I'd say, yes, that's not a good client for me. He and I have interesting conversations about that conversation. There's somebody here, please.
I have one. Giving yourself permission to make yourself a priority.
Yes, self-care, yay!
I think as women, we're mothers and wives, and we have families and responsibility. Often with like, when we focus on career or something that we personally enjoy, it can almost be seen as selfish.
Yes.
So I think changing that narrative is important.
I'm so glad, that's a great way to end it. If you're not taking any self-care, do it faster, because self-care is good care. It reduces all of the burnout. There's great research, a little self-care program we put together because the clients were all burning out. So no need to burn out. Take care of yourself first every morning. You know, have that cup of coffee on the porch. Take a walk in the woods. Have a little yoga. Do something for you. It's okay. Don't feel guilty. And if you don't take care of you, you can't take care of all the others who are counting on you. So a little self-care for you and even the guys in your life adds some tremendous stuff. That oxytocin goes crazy in your brain and you feel loved. It's a wonderful thing to take care of you. And you're smiling, you see? When you do, a smile comes and it's contagious. I can't thank you so much for the opportunity. Please, take care of you and have a great day, because every day is the only day you have. Enjoy.